You want to make a nice nose cone? You want to do that, what was it? Tinkercad World. He showed how to use a sketch tool to rotate a sketch to do like a lathe work. There's some issues with the way he did it, but if you know how to play with Tinkercad, you can make some seriously smooth nose cones. This is almost double the resolution of Tinkercad's maximum, which is the cylinder, and the maximum size is 64. So I'm going to show you how to do it at 120. Why do I choose 120? Because it's evenly divisible into 360, 3 degrees. One of the reasons his part failed, and will always fail, is because he was doing a 1 degree rotation. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's 720 parts that he's trying to merge. That's just not going to work. So what you have to do is you have to do it in batches, and you have to simplify the parts. And what I mean by simplify is, if you notice, I can't ungroup this because this is not a grouped object. This is a solid STL file. And the way I did that was, at certain key steps, I exported the file and then re-imported. And before I re-import, I opened up Prusa Slicer, and I put the file in Prusa Slicer, and I go to right-click, Fix by Windows Repair Algorithm, and then right-click again. I go to Simplify Model. I put it at the maximum, apply, so there's no errors. Because when you have lots of overlap in Tinkercad, even for relatively simple files, you introduce a lot of error. It glitches, where like chunks will be taken out of or added to the model that shouldn't be there. And this is one of the ways we do that. We do it in stages. So I'm going to start a brand new file to show you how I got to this. Let's see, new design. And don't be afraid to use multiple workspaces so that you have some backwards mobility. So the two things we're going to need is, we're going to need a cylinder in the center, because we need a fixed center point. So we're going to raise that up, and we're going to drop it down below the bed so that whatever we put on here, we can still grab that cylinder. We're also going to need a master ring. This is something I came up with to use in Tinkercad. It's kind of an homage to the One Ring from Lord of the Rings and the Master Sword from Zelda. But basically, the way Tinkercad works is rotate. You cannot array parts in Tinkercad. Arrays don't work unless the part is XY symmetrical. Okay? So the center is not determined by the center of this circle. Even though it shows you the center right there. See it? That's the center right there. But how does it come up with that? It doesn't come up with it 3 pi r, or whatever it is to find the radius of a circle and the center point. That's not how it does it. The way it does it is, it takes this XY plane, which is 20 by 20, and says, okay, half of that is 10, half of that is 10. Where do those points cross? Now you might think, well, what's the big deal? Okay. Not what I want you to do. Okay, try to radial array that. You can't, because it's non-symmetrical. It's 28 by 32. Yet I wanted to array around this part here. However, when you group parts together, not group as in combine, but group as in multi-select, it bases that XY rotation on the largest component. So as long as the largest component is symmetrical, you can radially array. This is how I do things like this. So you take your center point and you group these two together. Group it, not group it, but align them. Now, this is the center. I need that for positioning my part. And this is my master ring. This is how I'm going to rotate my parts. So, for example, what if I were to put, I don't know, let's make a fin. Let's do that. Nope, wait a minute. We have to do this. That's how we get a rocket fin. See? Now we have a cool little rocket fin. That's probably a little too thick. Let's make it a little thinner, like that. And then we lop off the top. And there, we have a nice little fin for a rocket. Now, the way I align this to the rocket is now under normal conditions, for a rocket, I don't need this piece because the tube of the rocket will be the center and it's symmetrical all around. But let's pretend that's the tube of the rocket. So I bring it somewhere close. I bring it up to where I want it on the rocket. And now I select these two parts. I align. I select this one to freeze it in place. And I hit align left to right, not the other way. And then what I do is I come in here and I embed it as far or as little as I want. See that black line on the left? It must all disappear. As long as it all disappears, and you can check that by clicking an object and hitting T, make it transparent. See how all of the fin is inside the tube now? That's what you want. Otherwise you end up with a micro gap and Tinkercad gets very pissed off. Now, how do I rotate this? Well, I can't select this, Control D, and do this, because it's going to do that. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, well, what if I do this and this? Control D. Again, common center. See? They're not rotating where I need it to. So here's how you do it. You select this, and you select your master ring, which is the biggest component, which is equidistant, 200 by 200. And now I Control D, and let's say I want a 3-fin rocket. 120 degrees. 1, 2, 0. And there we go. Now I have a fin there. Now I hit Control D again, and I have another fin there. Now I have a radially arrayed 3-fin rocket. Here's the important part, though. You can't move this part. If you move that part, you lose your center. If you move any of these parts, you lose your center. You cannot move these parts. Now, if you're worried about needing to move the parts, you take your parts, you can either group them together like this, or you can do it individually. So let's do this. I'm going to then shrink this. There we go. It's still bigger than the fins. That's all that matters, as long as it's bigger than the fins. Now I'm going to take my fin group and my extra ring here, and I'm going to join them. Now I can move these all over the place. And because this ring is the biggest part of the model, all I have to do is select this and my bigger master ring, or select this in my center, make that frozen, and bing, bang, boom, the parts are recentered. Now when I'm all done and I'm ready to merge this together to create my rocket, and I'm not going to move the parts anymore, now I can come in here, ungroup, and separate the master ring from the rocket, and now I can take the body tube and the fins and join them together into one part. But having those master rings allows you mobility in being able to move parts around and still be able to find their common center point. We're going to use that to create our array. Now, Tinkercad World, he created a shape and then revolved it. And the way he did the revolve was to create two sides. And you can do that, but it makes it a little more complex. I'm going to show you a little bit easier way using a master ring. The reason he did two sides was because if he didn't do two sides, are these not centered anymore? Yes, they're centered. It's the perspective change. Here's the problem with the way he did it. It has to do with how polygons are joined together. Let me show you what happens when you do it that way. This one, I think, is this one? Yes. Okay, so here is an object that I created, and the outside of this object is similar to what he created. It's a problem. You end up with a less smooth surface, and I'll show you. And you might not even be able to see it at this resolution. Okay, you see how you end up with these jitter joints? Ah, there it is. See it? See how instead of basically a regular polygon like this that has 64 sides, the faces look like this. Here's a face, here's a face, then here's a face, then here's a face. Well, here's the problem. If you take a polygon like that and you overlap it to create more faces, what you actually end up is this. And as you can see, you end up with a polygon that instead of doing this, it does this. Da, 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 da. And you can see that here. See how this, it starts here, and instead of going out to here and then over to here, it goes back in, then back out, then back in, then back out. That's what you're going to get when you do that. So what you need to do is use the inside surface. Now look at my inside surface. See how that's a nice 120 polygons. See? Out, 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 out versus... Come on. This one, oh, there you can really see it. See? In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And, well, number one, that's going to make your printer go as it's changing directions back and forth instead of just going bup, 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 bup. So what we have to do to fix that is create an inverse of the model. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So we have our center post to align the radial array on, and we have our master ring to control the size, or to control the rotation. We're going to do 120 faces, which is almost double the max that Tinkercad does of 64. The reason I chose 120 is because that divides evenly, 3 degrees, which makes our array much easier to process. Okay, so it took me a while to figure out how to make this work right. I tried doing this on a tablet. Yeah, don't do that. It does not work well. So I also figured out that this is 10. So each of these boxes is 10 millimeters. If I want to make a 4-inch nose cone, that's roughly 100 millimeters. So that means I need to go 50 out to approximately here. I can scale it later, so I'm not worried about it. Now I'm going to come in. Now each of these is 1 millimeter. I'm going to come in 2 millimeters and go up 3. That's going to create a bevel at the bottom of the nose cone, which is going to make it a lot easier to stuff it inside the body tube, because otherwise the nose cone is a sharp edge and ends up tearing apart the body tube. And if you have any elephant's foot, all kinds of issues resolve from that. Let's make the shoulder. We are 3 up, so 10, 20, 30. We're going to make the shoulder 30 millimeters. So we're going to come to about here, and we're going to make another bevel out. That's because the nose cone is this. You have your cylinder, and then you have your cone, and the joint here is this. But we can't print that, so we're going to print that, because I do all my nose cones in Vase mode. Okay, so there is the base of the shoulder of the nose cone. So now we're going to create, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Oh, we're off the chart. That's annoying. That's okay, we're close enough. So let's put a point here. And then here, we're going to come in a couple millimeters to make it flat. Here, here. I'll explain why in a minute. Because Tinkercad gets really mad if you overlap too many points and close it. Okay, so here is our basic nose cone. Now we're going to pick this point here. This is the only point that needs to be curved. Turn that into a curve. Zoom in for a good view. And let's adjust it until we get the shape of the nose cone we want. That looks pretty good to me. I like that. Okay. Alright, finish sketch. So there is our basic nose cone shape. It's 10 millimeters tall. That's fine for a 3 millimeter rotation. I think I want to make it longer. Yeah, it's only 100 millimeters long. Let's go 175. So we end up with about a, yeah, that's a nice nose cone. I like that. Now we rotate this vertically drop it on the bed with the D command. And then we come in here, put it approximately where we need it to go. Now, here's where it gets fun. You select these 2 points. Remember, do not move these 2 parts. Align, anchor this, center, edge. Now, to get this exactly in the center, we got to move it right 10 millimeters, or half the diameter of the circle. There you go. That's exactly centered. Now, we're actually going to go out a little bit more, but we're going to do that in a different way. We're going to create a square. We don't want to duplicate this because this is a complex part, and we want our part to be a simple part. Otherwise, Tinkercad's going to get real pissed off. Tinkercad will get angry. So 175 tall, 175. And then we drag this in this way. Let's select all these parts. Align, anchor, align. Okay. Now we take this and we move it in until we just touch that tip. Just like that. Remember that little flat part we created? That does need to overlap. Now I take this, I turn it into a hole, and I join it to this. What I have now done is created an inverse of the original part. Why? Because this outside surface is going to form that ziggy-zaggy shape that we don't want. But this inside surface will form a clean polygon. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify this part. That's a shape we want, so we don't need to do anything else. Now, if you're worried about being able to go backwards, well, it's very easy. You duplicate it and you stuff it back here. There's step 1. So I can always take that apart and modify that sketch if I need to, and then bring it back in and perform these functions. So how do you simplify? You select the part, you export it as an STL. That is Surprising Kieran. You bring up Prusa Slicer, you bring up Surprising Kieran into Prusa Slicer, you right click. There's no errors detected, but we're still going to do it anyway. Fix model, right click, simplify model, maximize it extra high. We're taking 85%, 15% off. Then you right click, export STL, overwrite the existing file, and delete this file. We're going to create multiple stages of doing this. This is all to keep Tinkercad happy. Then you go to import, choose file, and you re-import that file. Import. Now the red one is the anchor, but the red one's the one we're going to delete. We select these 2, align, anchor this part, align, align. There we go. The red one is the sacrifice. Now, this one here, see I can ungroup. This one here, I cannot ungroup because this is now a simplified STL file. Now let's check our work. Hit T for transparent. What you're looking for is any glitches in the model. They'll show up as dark lines. See how that model is perfect? There's no dark lines. We're not counting this dotted line here. That's the center point. All right? What we're looking for is any glitches. I see no glitches. We're good to go. T to go back to normal. Now here's what we do. I select the master ring and the part. I do a duplicate. I click. I type 3. And I start rotating. Control, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We take 10 of those and we join them together. Alright, that joined pretty fast. I do not see any obvious glitches. What we're looking for is obvious glitches. I see no obvious glitches. Let's go T for transparent. Don't worry about the outside. That's actually that's that zigzag that we're going to get rid of later. Okay? See how the inside's smooth and the outside is zigzaggy? That's why you create an inverse, so you don't get that zigzaggy line. I like this. It's clean. In fact, that merged so fast, I wonder if we can get away with doing a full rotation from this. Normally, I would export this, clean it, and do it again, but I don't think we need to. I did 10, which means I now need to do I did 10, so I need to go 30 degrees now. Okay, so take your mastering, select it, hide it, Select all of it. We're deleting all the extra master rings, because every time you duplicate this, you duplicate the master ring. You always got to clean up your garbage, otherwise Tinkercad gets mad. Let's gamble and try it again. Duplicate. We might get lucky. Select. We are going to go 10 times 3, 30, so 30 degrees. Good. And now we should be, that's 2. This should be 12 rotations. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Nope, one more. I don't need that one more. Okay. So that's all of them. Let's see if it joins that without throwing a hissy fit. It might. That was a pretty clean merge last time. If it doesn't, we export and re-import. Alright, now the first thing we're going to check is we're going to look inside. I'll first turn transparent off. Okay, look inside. Do you see any obvious glitches? I don't. Okay. Make it transparent. Do we see any really glaring glitches? It's best to look down from the top so you don't see all the lines. Nope, I don't see any glaring glitches. Okay, now I'm not going to use this to do the cut, because now I'm going to show you how to get your actual nose cone, because this is a mold. Now we have to fill the mold. We take this, we export it, STL. Because this is now 12 parts. If we export it and re-import it, it's 1 part. And that makes life a lot easier. Okay, we're already ready there. We just gotta wait for Tinkercad to finish exporting this. Think of this as a mold, and we're about to fill the mold with molten plastic. There we go. Okay, so we bring this into Prusa Slicer. Okay, auto repaired for errors. See, that's why we do this. So fixed by Windows repair algorithm. If you ever see those itty bitty little gashes and lines on your model, many times this will fix that. Right click, simplify model, extra high, apply, right click, export STL, replace the existing file, clean up my workspace, and bring it in. Oh, no, does that work? No. I didn't think that would work. Import, choose file. I could probably drag it on there, but I don't want to. Okay, the pink one is the keeper. So again, we highlight the 2 models. We align on this one, anchor it. Align, align. Now we find the gray one. Delete it. So here, you see, I can't ungroup it. This is now a simplified model. If I want to keep that just in case, I could just grab it and stuff it over here and keep it as a backup. But keep in mind, you're complicating your workspace by doing this. All right, you're better off just dunking it, because this is all you really need. This is what you need to modify the shape. The actual rotation is pretty easy. So now we have this, and do I see a glitch? Yeah, I see a tiny little glitch right there, but I think that's okay. See that line? That's a glitch. If you go to transparent mode, see how that glitch stands out? That's what you're looking for to try to avoid, but I think we're going to be okay with that one. If I would have done that separate export, we would have been okay. Now is the fun part. We grab a cylinder. We turn this into a hole. You don't need a high-res cylinder, it doesn't matter. This is 78 by 78, so 70 by 70 will be fine. 70 by 70. How tall is this? It's 175, so 174.9. You want it just a little bit shorter. You drop it right in there. We don't even have to center these, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's good practice. Select anchor that part. All right, and then we take these 2 and we join them. And bingo, bango, there's a nose cone. We got a couple tiny little glitches there, but those are super fine, and they might go away when we repair this in Prusa. But there you go. Now we have a nice, clean nose cone that has 120 poly count going around. So this is almost twice the resolution that Tinkercad can normally do. And this is a relatively easy to manipulate file. So we're going to do the same thing. Export it, STL. There it is, number 2. We grab, refresh. Number 2, we bring that into Prusa. No errors detected, but we're going to run the process anyway. Right click, fix by Windows repair algorithm. Right click, simplify model, extra high, apply. We're getting down to 8.4% of our original size, which is really nice. The little micro, these little micro striations that you see here, where it's not exactly perfect polygons, those are so fine that you're never going to see them when you print it. Export STL, replace, yes, clean up my workspace. And back to Tinkercad. Now at this point, I'm done here. So I'm going to leave this like it is. So let's call this nose cone blueprint. I'll give it a better name some other time. If it's a specific nose cone, I'll give it a better name. Call this one nose cone core, since we're now going to use this nose cone as a core to do the things that I like to do to nose cones. Alrighty, so we select the nose cone, import. And you see it imports it pretty quick too. Now let's see if we have any glaring glitches. Look at that. Fix them all. No glitches. See how nice and clean the inside of that model is? Not a single glitch anywhere in that model. Oh, right there. There's an itty bitty glitch right there. You'll never see that when you print it. I can't even see it from any other angle. There it is. There's one there. There's one there. Little tiny micro glitch. It looks like there's another one right there. Now they're going away. And they're going away at different angles. So those might not even be glitches. Those might just be display artifacts from Tinkercad. But yeah, otherwise we're looking good. That's about as clean as you're going to get, and you don't get no ziggy-zaggies. This is only a couple millimeters across, so I wouldn't worry about this. But if you wanted to clean this up, you could just put a cone on top of here and clean up the top of the model and make it come to a nice point. But I never close the tops of my nose cones anyway, because it always ends bad when you do that. Now, the way I normally do this, I Control D and I skin the model. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do the proper skinning. We change the color. I hate when it goes to custom. I don't ever want to see customs. Let's do red. I don't want it to be transparent. So what I do is I shrink the model like this. And then I have to shrink the sides like this. 35 and 35. Okay, I recenter. Now there is a slight problem there. Yeah, that's a slight problem. Okay, so this. Come on, how do I select it? Give me it. There it is. I need to make sure that these two surfaces here are pretty close to each other. Because if they're not, you run into trouble. So I can bring this up a little bit until I get these surfaces pretty close. Okay. And then I take the bottom and I bring it up. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to do a little more. Let's go 160. That's too much, I think. Nope, that's good. Okay, Control D. I'm going to do this because I need to know what diameter this is. I can cheat though. There's a nice way I can cheat doing this. So we take a couple of cubes like this. There. Control D. There. Raise it up. Join it all together. Group. I guess G don't work. Okay. We take this and we drop it on the surface, and then we align all three. Align on this one, center, center, and join. Nope. Oh, I almost screwed that up. So this, hide it. This has to join, and then this has to become a. That's a bit of glitching. There is a way to. Actually, I can show you how to fix that. What you do is you select the shorter piece here. Okay, come on, give me that one. Change the color. Okay. Where's the other piece? Why can't I select it? Why the hell can't I? Did I already join them? Yeah, I already joined them. No. Yeah, okay, there it goes. Okay, there. What we do is extend this all the way up so it passes through the top part, and now you get no glitch. See? No glitch. Bring it back. Oh, first I have to turn that into a hole. So we turn this into a hole, and then we take this, align it again, make sure we're centered. Yes, we are, and join them. I have now created a hollow nose cone. Okay. There we go. So now we have a hollow nose cone. And now how do I create the ribs to make this into a vase mode compatible? Because it's an island, so I might as well add this as a vase mode lesson as well. So to do that, I'm going to print this with a 1mm nozzle just because I'm insane. I want to make this like stupidly strong just because I can. So here's what we do. So we have to unjoin this again because we actually need this model to be solid for this operation. I'll explain why in a minute. So we're going to rejoin these later. Why isn't that hollow? That should be a hollow. Okay, align, center, and center. So here's what we do. We create a box. We make that box taller than the model. Well, we're not going to go all the way up. We're going to go like 160 maybe. And we'll do normal vase mode for the very tip. Let's go 168, 170. Let's go 165. Okay. Now, we make sure this box is big enough to go to the center. And you make the box 0.02. 0.02. We take all of them and we align them only on this axis. Okay, so this is going to be a rib that we're going to create around the model. We need a master ring because, again, we need something bigger than the rest of the model. Otherwise, we're not going to get our center array rotation. I like to make it nice and skinny so it's not in the way. This and this align, anchor, center, center. So as long as the master ring goes out further than this, we're good. Now, what I have to do here is I need a second block. So Control D this, and we're going to make this block 10mm wide. Okay. Align everything again on anchor. We're going to duplicate the nose cone, turn it into a hole, and cut it out of the box. Okay. Now that nose cone is gone, and if we get rid of this, you'll see what we did. So now we have this outside shape of the nose cone and this piece on the inside here. We're going to turn this into a cut tool, but we have to shift it. You have to shift it 2 times the diameter of your nozzle. I'm going to use a 1mm nozzle, so I have to shift it 2mm. Now there is a little wiggle room, so I'm going to shift it 1.9mm to make sure I force an overlap. So I grab this and I shift it this way, and I do -1.9, -1.9, and now I join these two parts together. Join. It's okay to have this out here. That just makes it easier for you to grab a hold of it. Turn it into a hole. Bring your stuff back. Now we join the two pieces of our nose cone back together again. Now we have our hollow nose cone, and now we have that cute little piece right there. Now this is a 1mm nozzle print, so I don't need too many ribs on this nose cone. So I grab the master ring and this. I duplicate, and let's go that many rotations too. Control D, 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 D. Okay. So there's our ribs in the nose cone. Now, one complication. In order to be vase mode compliant, one of these ribs must completely cut through the model. So we take our original rib and we ungroup it. We get rid of this and we turn it back into a hollow. So now all these ribs cut through the inside surface, but they do not cut through the outside surface. They just cut through it almost all the way. However, this one cuts all the way through the surface. And here's what happens when we do that. We join them all together. Now I have a vase mode compliant, double-walled, complex multi-surface model that's vase mode compliant. And there's the ribs inside the model. And all of those ribs are equidistant from the outside of the model by 1.9mm. Which means when we print this, we're golden. Watch. This is the highest resolution nose cone I ever made in Tinkercad. This is awesome. Nose cone core. So we take nose cone core, we drop it into Simplify 3D because that's my preferred slicer. You don't like it? Fight me. And we are already set up for my optimal settings. 111.4 vase mode. We are good. There we go. 45 grams of plastic, 52-minute print, and that's a 4-inch nose cone. Now I might have to tweak the actual dimensions of this cone to match the body tube that I'm going to use, and I would do that before I did this. This was just a rough print. Now to verify we have a valid vase mode, we turn on all this showing and we bring it down. See? Now what we're looking for is we're looking for any red lines, because red lines will indicate a retraction and a travel move. We're also looking to see if this tool head jumps. As long as it doesn't jump, except at the beginning and the end, we're good. See? See how it stays in the same spot all the way up? And there's no red lines, and then it switches right to vase mode at the end there and finishes printing the tip. Now for a clean nose cone, what I would do is do a multi-process. So tools, variable settings. We know the top is at 165 millimeters. So I would add that. And at 165 millimeters, I would switch to 0.2 millimeters. And I will turn up my cooling to 100%. 75%. 75% cooling. Oops. And I also want to big time slow down the speed. 150 cubic millimeters. It's only going to take a few extra seconds to print that tiny little piece, but it'll stop that piece from being melty and melting all over the place. And at that speed, we could probably get away with maximum cooling. So 100. We do not need a first layer. Remove. One. First layer. 100%. We don't need to slow down. We also don't need any additions. Now we switch. And because of we are changing layer height, we have to make sure there's no gap. And no, there's no gap. There's a way to tweak it to get around that. But now it's going to print at 0.4 millimeters the entire nose cone. And then for the tip, it's going to switch to 0.2 millimeters and slow way down. But you can see how smooth this nose cone is. That's cool. And we can see that really here. Now here's where we verify we got proper vase mode. See? See how there's a little overlap here? So what it does is it comes through here. You're gonna let's take off the tool head. There we go. So the way this works is it prints the outside, and then it comes inside, goes around the inside, out and back, 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 and then it goes back to the outside. That's how I create multi-surface complex compound models using vase mode. So this incredibly strong but also incredibly lightweight nose cone is only 45 millimeters, and that's with a 1 millimeter nozzle. So you could beat somebody to death with this nose cone. You can murder somebody with this thing. And there's other things that I can do to add, like for example, I can make the bottom few millimeters solid, add some infill so you have a place to tie on the shot cord. There's different things you can do to create attachment points on here, but this was just a quickie job just to show you how to do this. But there you go. That's how you can use the sculpt function. You can also do this with any imported shape. So if you have a program that you already use to do stuff like this, see where this blob here indicates a retraction, which you're always going to have on the first layer and the last layer. What we're looking for is to make sure there are no other blobs, and there isn't. And this little move here, that's your travel move. So we look for those red lines, we look for those blobs to verify it's right. After we get to the main portion of the model, we make sure that there's no gap here, that there's a slight overlap between these layers. And that's so that these ribs fuse with the outer wall. If there's a gap, there's no fusion. It'll be stiffer, but it won't be monolithic. It won't be stronger. By having fusion, this becomes a fully integrated structure. This is using engineering to make the part stronger. This, you could put this on a high power rocket and launch the living hell out of this. That looks too small. Why does this look so small? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. This is only 50 millimeters across. It's supposed to be 100 millimeters across. For some reason, this is half the size it's supposed to be. That's weird. Now, keep in mind, you cannot scale this part. If this is the wrong side, you have to go back to Tinkercad and you have to do your ribs over again. Because if you scale this part, you're going to change the relationship between this point and this point. And you can't do that. It also means you can't use a different nozzle size. This will only work with a 1 millimeter nozzle. If I want to do this with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, then I have to redo my ribs so that this gap is 0.8 millimeters, not 1.9 millimeters. Because otherwise you end up with a big giant gap. So that's the downside. But the upside is you end up with stupidly strong parts like this. Why the hell is this thing half the size it's supposed to be? I must have it wrong in here. I thought these were 10, 20, 30. Oh, it is. I somehow ended up half the size I want it to be. That's my bad. But there you go. You want to create a mold, an inverse, just like mold making, because you don't want to use the outside surface of the model. You want to use the inside surface of the model, because otherwise you get zigzaggies on the outside. And then at each step, export, repair, simplify, re-import. This keeps Tinkercad from choking on everything, because if you notice, I can't decimate this back to its original sculpt. Is that what it is? Sculpt tool? Sketch tool. I can't decimate this back to its original sketch tool, but that's okay. We save that here in Nose Cone Blueprint. So if I have to modify the sketch, I can do that here. Okay? So no big deal. And how would I correct this? Well, I would go backwards until here. Alright. Well, the only correct way to do that is to redo this. So that has to be deleted. This would have to be scaled. So this needs to be 100. And now this is probably too tall. Yep. So this needs to be 395. Okay. Now that's a 4-inch nose cone that will fit on a 4-inch tube. And now I would basically have to do the same thing I did before. Create my multiple squares to create my ribs, to create my cut lines. But yeah, that would be the same thing. And I would have my Vase mode compatible nose cone. That's it. If you have any questions, ask down below. But yeah, the big trick with Tinkercad is save your backward steps in multiple workspaces. Try to keep each workspace as clean as you can. And when you're doing lots of merging like we're doing here, the first thing you need to do is get away from the sketch. You need to simplify that sketch into a monolithic part, because there's probably a lot of complexity in that sketch. You keep it, you keep it in your blueprint, because remember, I still have the sketch here. So I can always go back to this and separate this to get back to my sketch. Yeah, here it is, edit sketch. Okay, so I can always go back to this to edit my sketch. You just save it in a separate workspace, and that keeps Tinkercad from evacuating its innards all over your screen. If you're listening, Autodesk, I would pay money for a downloadable non-internet version of Tinkercad. And don't even give me every update. Update it once a year. Do your updates on the online version, then once a year upload the offline version. I would kill for an offline version of Tinkercad that I can just install on a computer and never need internet access, because I have a tablet, a Windows tablet, and the problem is when I'm out on the field flying rockets, and I have a 3D printer in the back of the car. I have a little Ender 2, and it's perfect for printing out my centering rings. And the problem is you never know what size centering ring you're going to need. I always know what size the motor tube needs to be, but I never know what size the body tube is, because each manufacturer is slightly different. And, one is not going to fit the other. And there's one thing I never ever have when I'm out in the middle of nowhere, because the nature of model rockets is you're sending objects at 300 to 2,000 miles per hour up into the sky. The one thing you don't do is do that around people or buildings or highways or airports. So the one thing that we never have when we're out in the field is cell phone reception. The nature of what we do is that we usually don't have you can usually make calls, but you have no data connection. So an offline Tinkercad would be so amazing. Oh my god, I would love that. Oh, I would love an offline Tinkercad. Even if it only ever had one workspace, and I always had to bring in a file to do something. I don't care. Just do something. Some kind of offline version would be amazing. But otherwise, that's it. That's how you use Tinkercad to create. You can use the new sketch feature, or you can import an SVG of a known size using a center point and a master ring, so that you can do a revolve array. And then, do a couple of iterations, export it, re-import it after cleaning it up and simplifying it, add a couple more, export it, re-import it, finish it off. Right now, I probably wouldn't go past 3 degrees, 120 faces, because at that point, you're about as smooth as you're going to get. Unless you're printing, a 10 or 12 inch nose cone, okay, well, now 200 faces might be nice. If you're printing something really, really big. But beyond that, unless you're going crazy ham big like that, there's really no reason to go past 120 for the most part, because you're now bumping up against the resolution of your printer. You're bumping up against what you're going to be able to see physically when the filament draws its path. So 200 is probably going to be the max. Whatever, probably 2 degrees, which would be 190. So 190 faces is probably going to be the maximum resolution that you're going to be able to perceive in a print. And you should be able to use this technique to do that. You just got to remember to do a 2 degree rotation. You do it 10 times. You group, export, simplify, error correct, re-import, then you array that after you realign it 36 times, because 10 would be 10 degrees, or 20 degrees. Yeah, 2 degrees each, 10 times, 20 degrees. That's 5, 10, 15, 18 times. You would then have to revolve that 18 times to complete the 360. And then again, after you group it, look inside, make sure you don't have any obvious glitches or things like that. You might even have to do like, a 9 revolve, export, import, and then 3 revolve. Whatever steps you have to do to keep it simple. Don't forget to clean up your garbage. Don't be afraid to open up a new workspace, because the dirtier your workspace, the more history your workspace has, the dirtier it becomes, and the more glitchy Tinkercad gets. And once you're all done, you can delete those extraneous workspaces. And that's it. Have a good day.